This is Greg Troutwine with Maritime Reporter TV, and we're very pleased to be joined here by Uli Selbach, the Business Unit Director of Maritime Fairs, who leads the team putting together the SMM 2024 schedule for September in Hamburg. Uli, having personally traveled to Hamburg for SMM since 1992, I know the exhibition is the biggest and the best in the maritime space. To start, can you give us an update on SMM 2024? A by-the-numbers look that provides the scale and the scope of this year's event using the metrics of your choice.
To make it short, actually, it looks great. SMM is back on track after the pandemic in the first edition in 22. So what people can expect this year is a full fairground with all 11 halls and 90,000 square meter brut filled. We are technically sold out by now. So we have more applications there than we have space. And that means mostly we cannot allow a lot of growth of old exhibitors. We have some new space for exciting new exhibitors. And we see big change to 22 will be that China's back. And China will be back at big times. I think will be the biggest participation ever. We also see growth from Korea and Japan, which is wonderful. And there are some other markets like Turkey who are really pushing into SMM. So I would say around more than 2,000 exhibitors from about 60 nations, expecting overall, when you look at the whole stand, personnel and the visitors coming in there, so there will be some 40,000 participants on the ground from far more than 100 nations.
I had actually looked on your LinkedIn profile and had ascertained myself that 2024 is your 10th anniversary with Hamburg Messe and SMM. So, you know, looking back on that 10 years, which I'm sure has gone by in a blink of an eye, how is this event most the same? How is this event most different?
Well, to be honest, when the pandemic hit us, also we asked ourselves, is the business model of a trade show, of an exhibition, still working? Now 22 was still affected by the pandemic, but now in 24, I have to say we are back in business, and actually stronger than before, because people felt that, I mean, you can do business meetings online, you can do this interview online, but you cannot replace a trade show by a digital event. People want to meet each other. They want to see each other. They want to smell each other. I would say it's so important to meet there. So the personal encounter is still very much important. And what we are doing is that we are actually doing more events and more networking on the fairground, and that we are and also what has changed most, looking back to 2014, is that we are having more events on the fairground, that we are having more conferences on the fairground, and that we have more networking there. So it's more in there for everyone who is participating at SMM, if it's a visitor or if it's an exhibitor.
And I think you might have answered it in your previous answer, but when you look at those years of COVID, when everything was shut down, when it was modified, you know, I hate to call it a silver lining, but you know, when you look at the COVID impact on this trade fair, how has it changed specifically in the wake of that event?
Well, one thing I would say is that not every company is sending 10 people to an event, but maybe they sent 6. So I think that has been reduced. And they're definitely also focusing on the main events. So with SMM being the leading international maritime trade fair, it's a must-attend event. So people go there. And so I think the travel overall from companies has been more restricted than before. But on the other hand, as I said, people want to be there. And when you are at a show like SMM, you're there for 4 days. So if you prepare those 4 days in a good way, you are actually going to avoid 4 months of business travels. because you're going to meet everyone there who you would have to travel to within 4 months. And those are all the meetings that you have that you planned. But about 50% of the other meetings are those people who you just meet on the show floor, at the conferences, in the evening. So also those coincidences that lead to new business, new contacts, new markets, and so on. So that's also when I look about sustainability. I mean, as I said, sometimes people say, well, is it worth that so many people fly from all over the world to Hamburg? Yes, because that they fly to Hamburg means that they are saving on many flights they would do otherwise. So it's also really a pro for trade fairs, also in that manner. And what I can see is also the show stays strong, and our competitors also do a very good job. And what we try to do is that SMM remains the number one. And that is great. And I have to say, I love the other directors of the maritime events, and we have become friends over the time, and it's a lot of nice teasing around with this bunch.
Uli, today, and to put it politely, the world is a geopolitically contentious place. With the continuing war in the Ukraine, the firing of rockets and drones in the Red Sea. Now, I'm certainly not looking to take this conversation down a political path, because there's already more than enough of that in the media today. And it was interesting because you already discussed some of the big international presence that is coming back to the SMM, which is fabulous. But when you're planning these big events, and you look at these international problems, how do they impact a show like an SMM, which this is an international showcase for global shipbuilding and ship machinery?
Well, Greg, as you know me, I really love talking politics, so you could get me easily started here. But just looking at SMM, it's like the United Nations of shipbuilding. 120 nations there who come there to do business together. And we're talking about seafarers. And 90% of the world's transport logistics are via the open seas. And so if the seafarers don't get along, and do business together, and then the world would really have a problem. So for me, SMM is always also a positive signal out there. And we will have exhibitors from Israel. We will have exhibitors from the Emirates, and we have big pavilions from China, and we also have exhibitors from Taiwan, and they're all there, and they are also cooperating with each other. But on the other hand, we are quite clear. Russia is on the sanction list, so we are not allowing any Russian exhibitors to participate at SMM. On the other hand, we are going to welcome the Ukrainian Maritime Association. We are also very clear there with that. On the other hand, if we like it or not, the politics, the geopolitics make it for many countries mandatory to increase their budgets on Navy and Coast Guard shipbuilding. And we are definitely anticipating that. So we are very happy that ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems, TKMS, is back as an exhibitor in this year. And we going to enforce also our Maritime Security Defense Conference with a new partner who has very close links also to the German Navy. And we definitely will see, SMM, we are not like a naval show with, won't find here torpedoes or whatever weapons, but it's a dual use event. So everything that's working in a cruise ship or in a bulker can also be used in a submarine or the frigate when it comes to gears, propulsion, lightnings, and equipment, and so on. So those exhibitors will be here, and we're going to see a higher demand on that side, and we will definitely will be a very good spot for this too.
SMM has obviously established itself for many, many years, but then in today's society, everybody wants to know what's new. So quite simply, what's new at SMM in 2024.
Yeah, and to remain the number one, we also always have to working on new topics. We try to be like half a step in front of the industry. And in 2016 we were the first event there who dedicated a whole hall to green propulsion. That was in 2016, and now it is the big topic everywhere. There's the same with digitalization, with 3D printing, and so on. So this year we're going to have an artificial intelligence center, an IE hub about AI, IE AI hub about AI in the maritime industry, with startups, with people, with other companies who have been doing that. But what is in with AI for the maritime industry? One thing. Then we're going to have a hydrogen hub, because hydrogen, you have methanol, ammonia, which results from that, is another important topic. So we're going to have also a focus show on the maritime hydrogen. And we see, especially in Germany, at the moment, when you look at the suppliers, their order books are full. But we are lacking, and that's a problem in Europe, is to find the right people, the team, to work on it. So we're going to have, instead of one, we're going to have 2 recruiting days, trying to attract more young people, students, or people who work in different industries to seek a job or find a job in the maritime industries. So also we see as SMM, as a platform, our duty to make the maritime industry even more attractive. And probably you will cut this out because you're American, but it's like make the maritime industry sexier again for everyone around it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have, we introduced in 2022 for the first time those open stages in the hall, where everyone can sit down and listen and discuss with the experts on stage. The so-called transition stage, as driving the maritime transition is again our claim, which means driving the energy transition, driving the digital transition, driving the security transition. And we have those transition stages. And we will add a 4th one, because we are going to move our SMM conferences, which so far you had to pay to go into Room Chicago. And this content we will move open to everyone onto the stages in the halls. You have to pay a bit more as a visitor to come in, but then you get much more of free content. And on each stage we will have the so-called wine o'clocks, where people can meet with a glass of wine or a good German beer, with some pretzels, and use this for networking. So we see more content, more networking, and also more fun. So it really is a must-attend event.